Welcome. Take a deep breath and let your mind travel far beyond the present moment. Imagine yourself standing between two great rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. The sun casts a golden glow over endless land, and in the distance, something rises from the earth. Walls, towers, a city unlike any other. This is Babylon, a place where history was not just written, but carved into the foundation of human civilization, long before the rise of modern nations. Before the philosophies of Greece or the empires of Rome, there was Mesopotamia, the land between rivers. And within this land, a small settlement began its quiet journey. At first, it was simple, modest, almost invisible among other early cities. But something about Babylon was different. Its position made it a meeting point, a crossroads of trade, culture, and ideas. Caravans arrived from distant lands, bringing goods, stories, and knowledge. Over time, this small city began to grow, not just in size, but in importance. It was no longer just a place on a map, it was becoming a center of power. Then came a ruler, whose name would shape the destiny of Babylon: Hammurabi. He was not remembered simply as a conqueror. Though he expanded his empire through strength and strategy, he was remembered for something far more lasting: order. At a time when chaos often ruled societies, Hammurabi introduced a system of laws that would define justice in one of the earliest civilizations. These laws were carved into stone, clear, visible, and unchanging. For the first time, people understood the rules that governed their lives. Justice was no longer random. It was structured: an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Harsh, perhaps, but revolutionary. It brought stability to a growing empire and laid the foundation for legal systems that would influence the world for centuries. As Babylon reached its peak, it transformed into a city of breathtaking beauty and complexity. The streets were alive with energy. Traders negotiated in crowded markets. Artisans crafted goods with remarkable skill. Priests carried out sacred rituals in towering temples. And then, there were its wonders. Among them stood the magnificent Ishtar, gate covered in deep blue glazed bricks, decorated with powerful symbols of lions, dragons, and bulls. Passing through it must have felt like stepping into something divine. And beyond that, one of the greatest mysteries in human history, the Hanging Gardens, a vision of green life rising above the dry landscape, terraces layered with trees, flowers, and flowing water. Some believe it was built by a king for someone he loved away to bring a distant homeland. Closer to the heart, others question whether it ever truly existed, but whether real or imagined. Its story continues to inspire wonder. Yet Babylon was not only defined by its grandeur, it was defined by its people. Farmers worked the land with ingenuity, building irrigation systems that controlled the powerful rivers around them. Scribes carefully pressed symbols into clay tablets, preserving knowledge, trade records, and stories. Education held value. Writing and mathematics were skills that shaped the future. Even in such an ancient time, there was a clear sense of structure and progress. Women in Babylon held roles that, in many ways, were ahead of their time. Some owned property, managed businesses, and participated in legal matters. This was not a simple society. It was advanced, organized, and deeply human. Belief played a central role in everyday life. The people of Babylon saw the world as a place shaped by divine forces at the center of Disyncte. At the center of their faith stood Marduk, their chief god. Temples rose high above the city, and massive structures known as ziggurats reached toward the sky like bridges between earth and heaven. Every event carried meaning. A storm was a message. A flood was a warning. A moment of peace was a blessing. Priests acted as interpreters of the divine. guiding the people through rituals and offerings. For them, the gods were not distant. They were present in everything. But even the greatest civilizations are not immune to time. After the era of Hammurabi, Babylon's strength began to fade. Power shifted. Enemies advanced. The city faced invasion, control, and transformation under new empires, though it rose again at times. Reclaiming moments of glory, something had changed. The golden age had passed, slowly. The vibrant streets grew quieter. The towering structures began to weaken. The heartbeat of the city slowed until, eventually, Babylon became a shadow of what it once was. For centuries, it remained hidden beneath layers of earth and silence, forgotten by time, until one day, explorers and archaeologists began to uncover what had been lost, piece by piece. The story returned. Clay tablets revealed thoughts from thousands of years ago. Ruins spoke of architecture that once touched the sky, fragments of a world that refused to disappear completely. Today, Babylon no longer stands as it once did, but its legacy is everywhere in the idea of law, in the structure of cities, in the very concept of civilization itself. It reminds us of something powerful. That human greatness is not measured only by how long it lasts, but by the impact it leaves behind in the stillness of night. When the markets faded and the temples stood silent under the stars, the city transformed. Oil lamps flickered in narrow streets. Shadows stretched across the walls, and in those shadows, stories were told. Stories of omens, of dreams, of messages from the gods. The people of Babylon believed that the future, to be seen if you knew where to look. A sudden movement in the sky, the pattern of stars, even the shape of a liver from a sacrificed animal. Everything meant something. Nothing was random. High above the city, Babylonian astronomers watched the heavens with intense focus. They mapped the stars, tracked the movement of planets, and recorded celestial events with remarkable precision to them. The sky was not just beautiful. It was a language, a code waiting to be understood, and in many ways, they were among the first to truly study what we now call astronomy. They divided time, predicted eclipses, and created early calendars that shaped daily life. It was knowledge far ahead of its time. Yet, even with all this knowledge, uncertainty remained. Life in Babylon was not always secure. Floods could come without warning. Crops could fail. Wars could rise suddenly on the horizon. And when fear grew, people turned to something deeper. Magic, not the kind we imagine today, but rituals, incantations, and protective symbols meant to guard against unseen forces. Amulets were worn for protection. Words were spoken to push away evil. Priests and healers worked side by side, blending belief and early medicine. Because in Babylon, the physical and the spiritual were never separate. Among the countless lives lived within the city, there were individuals whose names never reached history, but whose stories mattered just as much. A young scribe carefully pressing symbols into clay, hoping his work would be remembered. A mother watching the river closely, praying it would not rise too high. A merchant traveling far from home, carrying pieces of Babylon to distant lands. These were the true heartbeat of the city, not kings, not monuments, but people. And then, there were the moments of silence, moments when something felt different, when the air carried a sense of change. Because even before the fall of great civilizations, there are signs. Subtle at first, trade slows. Voices grow uncertain. The confidence of a city begins to fade. Babylon felt it, not all at once, but slowly, like a fading echo. Empires approached. New powers, stronger and more aggressive, looked toward Babylon not with admiration, but with intention to conquer, to control. to replace the city that once stood as a symbol of human achievement now faced the same fate it had once delivered to others. And in that moment, history repeated itself. When Babylon was finally overtaken, something deeper than power was lost. It was identity, the traditions, the rhythms of life, the quiet routines of its people. All began to change. Some adapted, some resisted. Some disappeared into history without a trace. But even as the city changed hands, its essence did not vanish completely, because ideas, once created, cannot be destroyed so easily. Centuries later, long after the last voices of ancient Babylon had faded, travelers spoke of its ruins. Broken walls, fallen gates, fragments of something that once felt eternal. And yet, even in ruins, there was beauty. Even in silence, there was a voice. When modern explorers uncovered the remains of Babylon, they did not just find a lost city, they found a mirror, a reflection of humanity at one of its earliest peaks, a reminder that progress is not new, that thousands of years ago, people were already building, thinking, questioning, and dreaming. Music becomes softer, more emotional, and maybe that is the most powerful story Babylon tells us. Not about kings, not about wars, but about us, about what humans are capable of creating, and how fragile even the greatest creations can be. So as you move forward in your own life, think of Babylon, think of the hands that built it, the minds that shaped it, the hearts that lived within it. And remember, we are not so different from them. Thank you for listening. Slow down, breathe, and listen, truly listen. Because somewhere, beneath the noise of the present, the past is still speaking.